World, we're back here on my YouTube. Nicholas Coriano, you guys have met him before here on my YouTube. Johnny Lee Reinoso, author,
Yes.
coach, consultant, overall goal getter and getter done. So, Johnny, what's up, man?
How are you?
I'm excellent, man. I am excellent, and I'm happy to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on. I wanted to bring the Think Tank Mastermind speakers all back on virtually. So one by one, that's what I'm doing. I'm bringing them all back to kind of, expand on some of the things that people learned in the prior Think Tank Masterminds and really bring this platform virtual. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
excited.
kind of sad. It's kind of sad we're not there together like we were a couple years ago, right?
Maybe. I've been kind of mulling this over, and I said, you know what? This is going to be one of the best pivots. We're going to look back and we're going to say the Think Tank Mastermind went from a small crowd, and in 5-6 years, when this video has 300, 400,000 views, a million views, we're going to knock on one and be like, damn, that's crazy. We talked about, talking in front of millions of people, and it happened. So I'm excited. I'm kind of excited about it. But yeah, I'm also excited about getting back to, in the mix with people, right? And touching them face to face and seeing them. So yeah.
No doubt. 100%.
So today, we're going to talk about one of your selling methodology, and I love this. You made an acronym for S.A.L.E. Tell me about your selling methodology and S.A.L.E.
Well, it came about. I've been in sales forever, right? I've been in sales for goodness now 21 years, 21 years, and then professionally, I would say, for the last 18 years, we're probably more like. Let me see. Yeah, 18 years professionally, where I was in Fortune 500 organizations. Where I started off that way, if you will. Actually, no, I started off in the fitness side of things, selling, and I learned a lot there in terms of direct to consumer. There, they were coming in the door and how to sell and all that jazz. And then when I got into banking and I was starting to sell to business and brokers and bankers, and it was a little different. And but being in sales for some time, you kind of see a lot, right? You're exposed to a lot. You recognize that everybody has their style. Everybody has different ways of going about capturing the attention of their prospect and knowing how to, try to convert them or whatnot. But one of the things that I realized is there's a lot of fundamentals, a lot of basics, and a lot of common denominators that we miss in the process of thinking that we're winning or we're closing. I say this to say that, and I just had this discussion recently with some folks on my team. One of the biggest challenges with being able to close a deal is being able to close a deal without going through the process correctly. People think a deal is a deal, close is a close. Like, why nitpick at it? Well, because if you close something because you're lucky enough, because it's a yes person and they're just going to go with it and they bought from you, now you think, oh, what I did worked. Right? It worked. Yeah. And it probably more than likely, if you don't analyze good deals and bad deals, however way it goes, if you don't analyze how it went, you're never going to learn from it. Right? So you really got to understand, did this work because I was lucky here, or did this work because I utilized the right methodology or the right skill? And everything that we do, whether it's self-created or something that we go out and learn from others, is a process and it is a methodology. So we have to recognize that at the end of the day, success leaves clues. So, what about those successful individuals that are out there in the game of sales that I can learn from? And when I was, when I kind of set myself out on this journey, I started looking at, I'm big with acronyms. Partly is because my mind's all over the place and I need to remember things. And acronyms it just works great for me. So I thought about, when we sell, when we speak, right, we have to capture the attention of the audience. And we only could do that by way of communication, by way of what it is that we're saying. Now, we could say, obviously our presence, brings that as well. And there's a lot of that goes into it, how you dress, how you look, and all of that, getting there on time, if you're there in person or whatnot. But, even in today's world, especially when we're doing everything video or cold calling, recognizing that your voice actually has an image. right? When they listen to you, those folks who are going to listen to this audio are going to determine in the first few seconds, you know what, that guy Nick, he's a powerhouse. He's a force. He gets it. He knows his business, right? He's passionate. That guy Johnny, that's his guest on the show there, he gets it. He understands it, right? They're going to know that by way of the tone, the voice, and how we carry ourselves throughout the whole show here, if you will. So speaking is critical. So speak, right? Authoritatively, right? So how do you want to speak? Do you want to speak low? Do you want to speak calm, right? And we'll get into some of this. So speak authoritatively is people want to buy from people who are experts, right?
Yeah.
They want to buy from
know
people
what you're talking
who are
about
experts.
if I'm going to buy from you.
I mean, would you go to a doctor if you showed up there and you went to school, right? To law school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you show up to an attorney's office? You're getting sued. You need a new attorney. You show up there and it says, he got his law degree up there, but it's like, he just graduated. He looks like he's scrubbing. I think I know what you're dealing with. I probably could figure things out. People don't want to buy from people like that. They want to buy from people who have that aura, that sense of control, that powerful, I'm going to take care of you. Just like when children go to their parents, right?
I have a line for this in my close process. I can absolutely help you. I can absolutely. There's certainty in the voice. So that's your authoritative. Okay, so speak authoritatively.
Absolutely. And the listen empathetically is critical. This is the biggest part because a lot of people could act as if, right? I think a lot of people could come about trying to talk in an authoritative manner, speak very powerful, speak very accurate. But the listen empathetically part is very difficult for a lot of people.
So speak authoritatively, listen empathetically. That's the whole acronym.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about listen, what are you saying? People they're not listening enough?
They're not listening for the most part. When you look at sales as a whole, people aren't listening at all. At all. I mean, recently I'm in the market to look at a property here. My parents are moving down to South Florida, right? Yes. So I called a real estate agent and I told him a few things. I said, look, a couple of things I'm looking at, right? And she said, well, tell me, she was referred to me from another friend. Tell me a little bit about what your parents want. And I explained very clear. I said, look, here's my time's valuable. I don't have time to go look at a lot of property. Do me a favor. I'm looking for these kinds of areas, this kind of community. And I want to make sure that the house specifically, the community has a tennis court. Okay. And specifically that for my parents, for my dad, that the house has this kind of backyard with a nice little fenced in this and a porch. I gave her very good detail. I told her the price point. She sends me a bunch of listings and probably 10% really fit that mold. And I have to fish for it. I have to search it up. I hand it off to my assistant after looking at 3 of them going, I don't see anything here that's right. Can you just look at these, please, and tell me if everything here has these 4 things that I'm definitely looking for? People don't listen. Yeah. They don't listen. Yeah. They don't listen at all. You see, when you're speaking to a prospect, when you're speaking to a buyer, first you have to ask great questions in order to extract from them what their needs are, what their challenges are, what are they going through, understand a little bit more about, their pain point. If there's a problem, if you're B2B, asking good qualifying questions, right? Making sure you're dealing with the right person. But when you're listening to them speak, when you're listening to them reply to you, when you're looking at their gestures, when you're listening to their breathing, if you're listening to their tonality, that tells you everything.
Yeah. There's a lot in between the lines. There's a lot that's not said. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's when we do at C-Level Partners, my other company, C-Level Partners, all that we do is cold calling, right? For our clients. We're the kickstart of their business development organization. We help them tremendously when it comes to getting into the corner offices of these Fortune 500 organizations, C-suite level. When we're speaking to these executives, and we're trying to get them to say yes to a meeting to meet with one of our clients, right? Whether it's about overhauling their supply chain, improving their overall operations, whatever it is, right? Improving their software, their ERP system, whatever. The net is listening for their understanding of, oh, I get what you're saying to me. For instance, I'm pitching about a certain client, about what it is that they're doing. And I say something like, so Nick, tell me a little bit about that. Do you tend to look at your software as a whole when it comes to overhauling your supply chain or optimizing your organization? If the reply is, no, I don't. I really don't. Then not only is the person not interested, he's pissed. If the reply is, well, we tend to not do that, but you see, I'm listening for that. I'm listening because then I know how to guide that person down the path of success. Okay, that tone right there, that's somebody I could persuade towards what it is that we're trying to accomplish here, right? An opportunity to meet with this person. The other tone basically is saying to me, I don't like what you said so far, and I'm really not listening, or I'm not in the mood for this. So what I have to do, not necessarily say goodbye and move on, take a step back a little bit, ask another question, understand what is that person going through. Try to become one with that person rather than just, nail down features and benefits and features and benefits. That's what happens.
This is the empathetic part, right?
Absolutely.
Empathetically. So I'm going to look empathetically up, man. I don't know, genius here. What does that mean?
Empathize. You have to understand where your prospect is coming from. Okay. You have to understand what it is that person's going through. Have you ever watched that Netflix show called
It says in a way that shows you understand how somebody else feels because you can imagine what it would be like to be that person.
Absolutely.
In order to build trust, you should make eye contact. Okay. Yeah. So in a way that shows you understand how somebody else feels because you can imagine what it would be like to be that person. That's interesting.
Absolutely.
I think and that's interesting. I always tell my team here, act as if you were the client, put yourself in their shoes. But it's very interesting in the sales process, how I think most people miss that in the sales process, right? They're not thinking about them. They're thinking about the sale.
They're thinking about the sale. They're thinking about trying to, because they have this overarching belief. You see, many companies, or if you're selling direct to consumer, okay, many people believe their product is the best, the bomb, the perfect. Competitors don't go. So
I'm
they
one of those
feel
guys.
like,
Yeah.
so they feel like that all they have to do and what they should do all the time is slam features and differentiation, rather than have a discussion. Just relate. Just talk to the person.
Yeah.
Try to understand where they're coming from. Try to understand why they're, in your store, or why did they actually buy your product to begin with, or why do they actually seek your attention, or why they should, but have that discussion. That's you want to speak in an authoritative manner does not mean you shove it down their throat and you slam the deal. Speaking in that manner, exactly. You're confident. And the empathetic part, as you just stated there, it's recognizing that everybody's at a different stage. So how do you get to where they are? How do you match and mirror? How do you guide them? You ever watch that show, Designated Survivor, that movie or show on Netflix?
Yeah. Where the guy, there's only one guy that in the White House, right? The Congress of Washington, D.C.
So you remember, I'm bad with names, but you remember, I think his name was Tom something, when he became actually the president, right? After that whole explosion, right? You remember when there's scenes where he's coming out of an office and he starts walking down the hallway in the White House, and the speaker comes right up to him, and his other, secretary, whatever, comes up to him, and his counselor comes up, and they all kind of get where he was and the pace that he was walking, and they walk with him.
Yeah.
They don't slow him down. In fact, many a times they're 2 or 3 steps ahead of him while they're talking to him.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. That's the visual I give my team and my clients when I'm talking to them when it comes to sales. Is we try to get onto these sales, especially cold calls, right? We try to get onto these cold calls.
You're on the other side. You're almost on the other side as opposed to standing next to them.
Or we're behind them, expecting them to stop and turn around. Buddy, you just cold call that person. You interrupted their day. How do you make it better? Right? You got to speak in authoritative fashion. You got to understand their business. You got to understand the reasons why you're calling them, right? So, and then from there, you listen empathetically by way of, if they're in a rush, right? So I didn't, I'm going to give you another acronym that I didn't mention at first.
Before we get to that, I want to tell a little story that I think I told before we turned on this video, which is, you share some of the stuff on your Facebook, and, for those watching, just Google Johnny Lee Reinoso, so you guys see the name on the video screen, and you can find all his handles. But on Facebook, you're talking about this acronym that we're talking about today, and you said about listening empathetically. You said, there's some people that are like, yeah. I get it. Yep. I get it. And you're like, you said something like, stop it. You're pissing me off. And you're not listening. You don't get it. You're just pissing me off. And it's so funny because I've dealt with that, right? And I've been that guy. I've been that guy that's on a call, and I know my business plan writing process, my consulting process so well, and I know what they need, but I'm not listening, right? And I'm, yeah. No, I get exactly what you need. You need a business plan. I get it. It's like, no, shut the hell up and listen to them. Actually listen to them, right? And it's funny because I get that. I've dealt with that, not just on the client side where it's really to my demise to not listen to them, right? So it really doesn't do me any favors. And in fact, it hurts my business greatly when you don't do that. But I've dealt with it with as an employee and as a boss too, right? On the other side where the employee's telling me something, I'm like, I get it. Or the employee's telling me, yeah, I got it. And they're not listening. So I feel like that's been a trigger for me. So thank you for that, because when you put that up, I check myself. Like if I hear myself on a call, if I hear my guys like, yep, and they interrupt me 3 or 4 times with a yep, it's a trigger for me now too, right? So if I catch myself in a yep, I got it, I trigger myself, hey, stop, get your notebook out, go take some notes, listen, repeat what they said back, and understand it and put yourself in their shoes. What's the other acronym?
Listen to understand. Before we judge, listen to understand. That's exactly right. Listen to understand. And look, we say this in the game of sales. I speak to my clients about this, but I've had many people who say, look, this is applicable, of course, to everything in life. My wife likes to remind me, look, you need to take a little bit of that where you teach others for yourself as well. Listen to understand, please. I'm speaking to you. So I do that.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of self-analyzation is important. Sometimes we shove off the things we're really good at because we're so good at it, we're so good at it. And then in different contexts, all of a sudden, because sales, we've talked a lot about this, right? A lot of people are watching because they're either into business or they're an entrepreneur, but sales is a life issue. You're selling all the time. You're selling your kids, you're selling your wife, you're selling your husband, you're selling your partners, your associates, your family. There's always a sale going on every day in life.
Even when it comes to the PowerPoint presentations and the decks that everybody's putting together, because everything's via Zoom now and all of these other kind of web conferences, right? So you have a lot of organizations, a lot of people are putting together these decks and they're having these presentations, right? Or these demos during this period with prospects. And I find it so comical, ridiculous, and horrible when I see that the person presenting, right, the product or service, right, to their prospect. So in essence, they're trying to sell their services to this person or sell whatever it is, this person, that they don't do any research. They don't do the due diligence that's necessary to find out, what about this person's business can relate or can actually be an ideal, for my product or my service. In other words, I was watching recently one of my clients in a video do a whole PowerPoint presentation, and we were talking about how to improve what it is that he's doing, right, online. So the first 3 slides, not the first 3, but in the first, let's say 10 slides, 3 of them spoke about the global reach that my client has. And he was getting ready for this call coming up. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. The call that's coming up, how big are they? Oh, excellent. Where are they located? In the US, New York. Okay. And where else do they have their offices? Well, New York and California. Okay. So where do they do their business? In the United States. Okay, so why do you have 3 slides about how big you are and how global you are with all these other resources in Europe and Latin America and Canada and Australia? Why would you waste your time speaking about that?
Yeah,
I just want them to see. You see, that's not preparing empathetically. In other words, prepare correctly. Listen by understanding, research to understand who's your prospect so you could prepare and speak to them. Like you just said, they just want to share all the great things. Oh, but we're global. You should know that. For what reason?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Unless the client told you, hey, we're trying to go global, then then the pitch should be around that. But you're absolutely right, right? I think a lot of times we're putting together these generic presentations, and that's interesting. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what the new economy looks like, where we're going in 2021. So I kind of taken this approach with the last two Think Tank Mastermind speakers, which is, they're taking their industry and asking, what does it look like in a year, 2 years, 3 years? I'm a believer, so I'll give you my viewpoint just to kind of kickstart the conversation. But I have a viewpoint that we're not going back to normal. There's a new normal forming. We're not going to be able to look back in 5 years and be able to say, March 10th was the day we all took off our masks and started hugging and started having family parties and going skiing and skateboarding all together. It's no, we're not going to have a date like that. It's kind of going to ticker away, taper away, and this new normal will form. There's going to be people that stand farther away from people, and there's going to be people that now wear masks on plane all the time, regardless of whether there's a mandate or not. And restaurant design is going to change, and shopping may change. There may be certain people that don't go back to the stores after they realize how easy it was on Amazon. So I believe there's a new normal forming, and I'm curious to hear what you think your thoughts are on, the new normal in sales and the new normal in the consulting world. Where do you think, what kind of things do you see happening there?
No, I think you're 100% right. I think every industry, I don't care what industry you're in, every industry, whether an industry that took off and has been booming because of this whole coronavirus, where they've capitalized and they've been able to win in the space, as well as those who have suffered tremendously. I think every industry is going to do business differently. At least they're going to have percentage of their business will operate differently. You have to acknowledge the fact that it's a different world. I agree with you 100%. It's COVID-19 today, COVID-21 tomorrow, COVID-36, who the hell knows? I think, nobody knows. We don't have any way of putting our finger on that and recognizing it. I think mask wearing is going to definitely be a new norm. Fashion already adopted to it. As you can see, it's, you can't go into, at least I was in Nordstrom's the other day looking at some shirts, and, half of them have masks, right? That's right there, stylish ones.
Listen, Louis, Gucci.
Yeah. So it's, from fashion to marketing to print marketing, because obviously, you're not going to have, Bank of America is not going to have an image of a guy giving a loan to a family that's smiling right in front of his office. It's going to be probably, an image of him on a screen with an image of them on their screen, docu-signing loans, and who knows, how it all works out with people wearing masks. So everyone's getting affected and everything's getting affected. That being said, I think the word pivot is critical, because small businesses as well as large businesses, we need to pivot. We need to pivot, right? The big players have pivoted. The small players need to pivot. Restaurants pivoted to some degree.
And the successful ones did, right? The successful quickly.
And albeit, the ones that also thankfully were allowed in certain states because of policies, right? Because obviously some were affected. I think that not only have businesses, and I know you didn't ask this direct question, but I can't hide from it, because I've witnessed it living here in South Florida now for 13 years, but especially over the last year since the pandemic started. Texas, Florida, we've continued to get hundreds of entrepreneurs and CEOs and large corporations that have relocated their businesses down here because of the policy and the ability to have more, whether it's business friendly, tax incentives, whether it's the fact that
everything is a good way to put it. Business friendly, for sure.
Everything's opened up in different ways. Just people want more flexibility. But I think, going back to your question, I think absolutely, even traveling. My family and I personally, we're travelers. Every year we go for 6 weeks to Europe. We've not traveled. And, the idea of traveling now, you're going to need to probably get tested or not get tested. Who knows? Or I don't know what the deal is, right?
Yeah, it depends on what state you come from, what country you go to.
I think at the end of the day, I think those who prepare, right? And we talk about sales, right? Those who prepare during this time, those who have prepared, and those who continue to invest in themselves so that they can be bulletproof, they can be industry proof, they can be, disease proof, if you will. And I don't mean that in terms of you won't get it, but I mean that in terms of whatever happens around you, might affect, should affect, probably will affect, but might knock you down 1 or 2 points, not 50 points like a lot of people got affected when this all started, right?
Yeah.
My revenue went from here to here, and a lot of people had to do that. And it was unfortunate. But I think now more than ever, people need to realize that this isn't going away still, in the sense of the psychology of your consumer and the psychology of your colleagues and your entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So you're right. Consultants need to adapt in improving their presentations on Zoom and how they utilize it. People need to start adapting more to utilizing YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. You have to overcome obscurity. You have to recognize that unless you're known, you're not known. And you can't be in business unless you're known. So it's very difficult, right? But you have to perfect your craft, because a lot of people have been having a lot of time to get better at what they're doing. And when this opens up just a little bit in terms of more opportunity, you got to bet your behind that there's going to be a tremendous amount of people on that starting lineup. And it depends, for those who have been better prepared and are ready for it, they're going to be sprinting by and getting to the finish line a lot faster. So you have to pivot. You have to invest in yourself, improve your sales game, improve your presentation game, improve the talent around you, elevate yourself. I mean, constantly picking up some books, right?
Yes.
You got to always read. You got to always read. You got to always, you don't have all the answers. But you have to invest in yourself. You have to hire consultants. You have to hire people to help you improve and to scale in this environment. And you got to think. I sent you this book. You got to think like a grand master. Okay.
Yes, I appreciate this. You did send me this. Yes. How many steps ahead are you thinking? Yeah.
You gotta think ahead of the game. I mean, you have to think ahead of the game. I mean, and the beautiful thing is, we live in a world, and we live in I still am, I love the time. I love the year. I love what's happening, good, bad, or indifferent. I try to see the positives, but we live in a world right now, and especially in a time of year where technology, innovation, creativity, capitalism still prevails in most areas of this world, especially this country. And those who are filled with that ingenuity and creativity and risk, they're thriving, because they're grabbing onto those investors, and they're impacting. I mean, think about delivery dudes. Look at Uber. Uber went up, in the start of the pandemic.
God, don't mention that. I don't want to give anybody any tips. I'm trying to buy as much Uber stock as I can. This is
it's insane.
Not say anything. I needed to stay below 60 so I can acquire as much as I can before that thing pops to God knows where.
It's insane. It's insane. So and we gotta be, but I do want to say this though, because I had this discussion, and I think hopefully, the younger and the folks who are, try to make sure that you educate yourself before you start allocating capital to certain things. And because there's a lot of people with this.
I feel like you should fail before you put capital into something. Fail at it.
Yeah. Risk what you're willing to lose. Risk what will not affect you. Now, it doesn't mean you don't want to take big risks, but rest assured that when you think about things like this GameStop, right? And I'm not a big expert on that. I know you're much more involved in the whole market than I am. I'm involved in it as an investor, but not as an I don't understand it. I take advice. But a lot of people signed up right away, whether it's I forget what they call, Robin Hoods of the world,
some stock.
Yeah, and they start throwing their rent payment or Robin Hood, my car payment or Robin Hood. It's like, guys, you're not going to get another game. Now, I'm not saying there won't be another GameStop, but you got to be careful, because educate yourself, get the training, get the understanding, and make sure that you're willing to bet what you're willing to lose, not what's going to affect your life.
I think investing is like everything else, is you got to practice. You got to understand it. You got to educate yourself. You got to learn there. And I think FOMO is real, the fear of missing out. There's FOMO, fear of missing out. And I think a lot of people have been duped, and they continue to be duped, because they think there's an easy route. They think that, and my advice with investing is, by the time you hear it, it's too late. Mm-hmm. It's too late. So most of the time when you're, if the nurse, here's my rule, here's a little rule I have for investing. If a nurse or a teacher is giving you a stock tip, it's almost guaranteed to be too late. It's almost guaranteed. By the time they understand what is going on, we are way past the curve. So Yeah, this Robinhood thing was that was a interesting chain of events. But I say the same thing. I have some young guys here on the team, and should I buy GameStop? I said, listen, while the world's looking away, go find a really good company that the financials are good, and don't buy the hype.
Yeah.
The usually underneath the hype. There's thousands on the billionaires list. Five of them. Like there's a lot of real out there, and then there's some hype. And you think Harrison Ford or this celebrity's rich, and it's like, dude, go look at that list. They're not. That's not rich. So. Yeah, interesting thing with GameStop. I think there was a lot of opportunity there. Again, if you bought early, I think if you bought early, but if you're a fundamental investor, it was a bad stock. That's really what happened there. That was a horrible stock.
Yeah.
The company was mismanaged. They were bleeding capital, and these guys figured out in a chat room how to win, and that's what happened. And if you weren't in that chat room before it happened, you were too late. So now you're hearing about it. You're too late, man. You should have been in that chat room, right? Learning with these guys. And trust me, they didn't just throw the money and decide to bet it up. They were learning, to your point. They were educating themselves on GameStop. They knew there was a ton of short positions. They knew that if they bid that price up high enough, the institutions would have to close their short positions and buy up the stock, which drove the stock even higher. So they were doing their homework there. And I truly believe that that's important, just, to your point. So give us an acronym. You had another acronym that
React.
So let's hold on. Let me just review for the audience the first acronym, which was S.A.L.E, right?
Yep.
Speak authoritatively, listen empathetically.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what's the next one you got for us, Johnny?
So in that same vein, when you're speaking authoritatively and you're listening empathetically for what it is that your prospect is saying, you rest assured that you're going to be given some level of a rebuttal, right? An objection. They're going to come at you with something is challenging them, something they didn't like, or something that they don't think that you actually have that could offer them what it is that they're looking for. So with that, what a lot of people end up doing is directly challenge what that objection is. Okay. Like they think the way to overcome an objection is to just say, well, no, it's not that we can't do that, or no, we don't do that. I mean, just listen to the word. No, I didn't say that, or I didn't say we couldn't do that, or I mean, it all under that umbrella of no. So think about it like an argument, right? Divorce happens because people are arguing. This is an argument phase. We're arguing. Okay. Right. If you come at me, well, your product is too expensive. How do I say no in a pleasant face? Like, no, it's not how it works. You say, no, it's not that it is. It's because I'm worth it, my value, or because we have a tremendous ROI. Look at the faces still, right? Yeah. So now listen to the react. React is repeat what? Their objection. And when you repeat their objection, then they know you're listening. And when you repeat it subconsciously, you are listening again. So you repeat their objection. So repeat stands for, you want to repeat, you want to empathize. Okay. I'm sorry, not repeat, react. You want to repeat, you want to empathize, you want to ask, REA, ask what questions. Empathize what? Empathize in what it is that they're rebuttaling. Now, how do you empathize? Oh, Nick,
it's too expensive, Johnny. Too expensive.
You know what, Nick? I apologize if I insinuated that actually our price point that I laid out here is exactly what it is that this product can do. In other words, there's a lot more that we can do with our services that could definitely meet your needs. So I apologize. You see what I'm doing right there? I'm not this. I'm this.
Yeah, it was smaller.
I'm bringing you back in. I understand. So I'm repeating your objection. I'm empathizing. Okay, that's RE. The A is, then I'm going to ask a question that says, Nick, so let me ask you, when it comes to pricing, obviously you do see the benefits and the value that we could bring your company. Tell me a little bit about what kind of investment you think that entails to get you from where you are today to where you want to be. What kind of investment were you thinking you would need to make?
Exactly. Right? That's the question.
I'm asking questions. I'm bringing you in. I'll ask another question like, so Nick, let me ask you a question. If we get to where you need to get to by X and X date, what would that look like in terms of earnings? How would that impact your bottom line? And so again, asking questions, bring them back in. When you ask, you're in control. When you're in control, you close. Okay. So R, you repeat. E, you empathize. A, you ask. C, you close. And T, you want to thank them, right? You want to be thankful. At the end of it, when you close, you want to be thankful. And ultimately that leads to referrals, right? Which is critical. And remember, data has shown 11% of all salespeople ask for referrals. So there's 89% of the people out there that don't ask for referrals in everything that we do. You are a fantastic business plan writing. You're a fantastic, financial analytical person working and consulting with companies.
Yeah, I don't ask for referrals.
I challenge you.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs know entrepreneurs. Business people know business people, right? So got to ask for referrals. We have to ask for referrals. We never do.
I could see how people miss that all the time. I definitely miss that.
Yeah, I do the same. I do the same at times. I have to remind myself, but it's one of those things that we have to constantly challenge ourselves. So that's one of the things that I'm doing this year is making sure that as I continue to deliver value into the marketplace, specifically with a lot of the, organizations and businesses that I'm working with, is to just ask for that referral, because people love to share great news.
Hold on. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give them a shout out on Facebook, Johnny Lee Reinoso. Check out the YouTube video and refer me to all your friends, refer me to everybody. There we go. I'm going to ask them right now. The virtual world. Yeah, that's so true. I don't ask for referrals. But I'll tell you what, I heard Kevin O'Leary say that the majority of small businesses go under, and I don't know if this is true, there's so many damn statistics out there, but I can totally buy it because I've had a lot of businesses where this was an issue. But the majority of small businesses go under because they spend too much money on marketing. They spend too much money trying to acquire the next customer. And there is nothing cheaper and more cost effective than a referral. And it is the best when it comes in. It is the smoothest transaction. It's very easy to close. They are generally ready and willing buyers. So I definitely agree with that. A referral, man.
And to echo that, the second cheapest way to acquire a client, cold calling.
Your time.
100%.
You think
cold
so?
Calling. Oh, 100%. 100%.
I want that started down in the comment section here. I want to know what the audience thinks about what is the cheapest way to get a client. I'm curious to know what some of the experiences out there were. What do you guys think was the cheapest way? In your experience, cold calling. You're cold calling.
If you're talking services, cold calling. If you're talking big product, big product, that's going to be more of an educating process in order to sell that product, cold calling. I still firmly believe in cold calling. I mean, obviously there are fantastic mediums and SEOs and ways to put landing pages and capture the audience. And I'm not knocking that. If you're an Amazon guy, if you're doing great in that business, that's wonderful. Then rock and roll, right? Make it work. Etsy and whatnot. But when it comes to professional services, when it comes to selling product or technology, I still firmly believe in picking up that phone and having that discussion with the decision maker, the economic buyer. Absolutely. Cold calling is by far the cheapest way.
There's definitely certain products and services that I've seen that be the ultimate, right, ROI is cold calling. I'm curious to see what the audience thinks. Yeah, comment underneath. I want to see what you guys think about that. What other methods you guys are using to close deals. I definitely think cold calling is super important. And again, I think it depends on the product or the service and what you're trying to do. But I also, what it makes me think of, it really makes me think, you have to know your gift, man. You have to know what you're good at,
Absolutely.
Because you're great. You're at a higher level of skill when you talk about cold calling. Cold calling is not something I'm sure everyone can do it. It's like running a marathon. Like you can do it, but you may not be apt, in your experiences in life. So I think, a self-awareness of where you are and some of your skill sets. And if you do want to learn cold calling, better follow my guy, Johnny Lee Reinoso. Just, Google him online. You guys will definitely find him. Any parting words before we go? I mean, what did we talk about? We talked about COVID. We talked about sales. We talked about some reacting. Anything else you want to cover, man?
Well, I think it's great as we come out, and this is more in general, as we come out of this When I say come out, I mean, obviously there's still going to be an element of everything here, but as we
Either
continue
way,
to,
this is what I've had this conversations. I'm trying to have this conversation with everybody at the Think Tank Mastermind because I'm very curious to see where people's headspace is at about, does this end? And how are people talking about it? I'm listening very intently to, what are they saying? What are people saying? Are they saying when this is over? Or are they saying, I don't know. I'm curious there.
well, two things. I mean, he who waits for that perfect time will be waiting for that perfect time forever, right?
Yeah.
So, you can't stop. You can't
Yeah.
stop, right? You got to keep on going. I always like to say, decisions, not conditions, will determine my destiny, right? So I'm not going to let the condition of what's
Decisions,
happening,
not conditions, will determine my destiny.
absolutely. And I got to repeat that every day during my incantations in the mornings and throughout the day to remind myself it's not because I went to bed last night. For instance, I got up, this week was a great week. Last week was a good week. And my commitment is every day, but except Saturdays and Sundays. But at 5 a.m., I'm at the gym. I do my cardio, I do my weights, and then I'm in the office by 7, the latest. So, I went to bed last night, 12:30, because I decided to stay up a little bit and watch something. I was talking to my wife. We were just up late. When it was 4:45 and my watch started vibrating, I go, God, but I went to bed. No, it's my decision. I'm getting up. I'm not going to allow the condition that I put myself into to now stay here and sleep another 45 minutes.
I like
right?
that because you're acknowledging the fact that you could put yourself in a condition.
Oh yeah.
Right?
So you have.
I'm thinking to myself, condition meaning like COVID, but what you're saying is your example. You put that condition upon yourself. You're talking about a physical condition.
You have both, right? You have what's coming at you because of just life itself and in general, and then you have your own, set of conditions that you just put upon yourself, whether it's in your environment, your mindset, your food, your intake, your relationships, your all that stuff, right? So you have to improve on those conditions by way of making the right decision, and decisions got to be tied back with your goals and your purpose, right? So I continue to try to go through that ritual, that incantation every day to remind myself, decisions, not conditions. But one of the things that I think is important is, as we continue to adapt to today's world, to the new norm, to the way we're going about our business, to the way we go about our lives, we did have a period of time where we paused. We did have a period of time that we reflected. We had a period of time where we just we didn't know what was going to happen and when was it going to happen and how was it going to happen.
What was going to happen? Yeah.
So what did we do? I can speak for myself, and I can tell you that a lot of clients, friends, family, relatives, neighbors that I've seen this, we started living.
Yeah.
And what do I mean by living? We started loving more.
Yeah.
We started learning more. We started understanding more. What do I mean by understanding? I mean by, wow, my children, for those who have children, my children, actually are excited that I don't have to go to work and they're spending more time with me. Wow, I didn't know that guy's across the street who's lived there for 4 years, his name's Patrick.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I didn't know that the lady down the street, her husband died 2 years ago. She's raising 2 kids by herself, and she might need some help sometimes.
Yeah.
Like we didn't do that because we lived in a world that was just me, go, and nothing else.
Yeah, no,
so
for sure.
What I took away from this pandemic, and what I continue to strive, is I made 2 lists. I made the list of what I loved and enjoyed pre-pandemic, and what I loved and enjoyed during the pandemic. And I decided to take away what I didn't like before the pandemic, if I can, and I removed it from my life. And I took away what I didn't like during the pandemic, and I removed that from my life. And I kind of merged that list together. So what do I like more? I like to spend more time with my family. Okay. I like to go on longer walks with my wife. I like to enjoy to spend time reading outside that I never did. I like to walk in the neighborhood and talk to people. It doesn't mean that I'm going to fail at my business or not do this or not do that. It just means that now I'm putting priorities where they actually should be, but I wouldn't have experienced it if it didn't happen. So people listening to this, create that list. What did you really enjoy before the pandemic that probably can come back? Okay. Like outdoor dining, it's going to come back. And what did you really enjoy during the pandemic that, yeah, we could say we enjoyed something during the pandemic, right? Whether it's more time with your spouse, whether it's whatever it is, like
Yeah,
exercising,
hanging
reading.
inside. Yeah, hanging inside
Make
or
that
whatever.
list and try to live by that list as your goals for 2021 from a personal perspective. And if you have some professional ones, then add them on there as well. I think that'll be a great thing.
I love that. I love that advice. I love going back to the why, the what, the where, the when. I love asking yourself the really hard questions. And that's ironic. I think a lot of people had that experience during this pandemic. They started realizing what is important. And you start realizing that a lot of the things you were doing before really didn't matter. Because if you had to go tomorrow, you're only gonna worry about doing a few things. Man, I appreciate it. I appreciate the time, Johnny. And I hope we do this again. I'm talking to all the other guys too about doing more scheduled ones. And I got a bunch of files that we've done when last time I was in Florida that I still got to edit and put up. This one will be published tomorrow, 2:30. For those watching, that's today, 2:30. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Follow Johnny, follow me, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you comment and tell us what your best, your close scenarios are. What's the best way you guys feel like you guys can close sales? And if you didn't like the video, comment too and let me know why. And tell me what else you guys want to see on this channel. I'll make sure I make it happen for you guys. Peace out,
Nick,
guys.
thank you again for the invite.
No, thanks, man.
Cheers.